I'm Hasini Madanayake. I'm a student at South Asian International Institute of Higher Education. I'm studying Diploma in Early Childhood Care and Development at March 2022 batch. Today I'll be presenting an assignment done under the subject Child Development. So this was the third assignment done under the theme Maintaining Physical Environment related to health and nutrition. So if we look at the content, first I'll be talking about water and sanitary facilities, and then sick room and first aid box, and then communication channels to inform parents in emergency situations, and then about plots for gardening. So first, let's look at clean water and sanitary facilities. So water, sanitization, and hygiene are basic human rights. So without access to water, children's health and nutrition are affected. So adequate sanitization is essential to childhood survival and development. And good hygiene not only allows children to stay healthy, but also it prevents the spread of infectious diseases, but it also ensures they miss fewer days of schools. And Sri Lanka is on track to meet its sustainable development goal of providing basic access to clean drinking water and sanitation. But Sri Lanka will have to focus on safely managed accesses. So now let's look at how to ensure clean water and sanitary facilities at an ECCD center. So the first one is having tap water lines for children's hand wash requirements, because especially to prevent communicable diseases, hand washing is very important. So we need to ensure that the tap water lines are there at the ECCD center so that the children can easily use them for hand washing purposes. And the next one is having clean water filters with the drinking water. Even though we encourage children to bring their own water bottle from home, we should always have a water filter either filled with boiled water or with filtered water, so that in case the child runs out of drinking water that he brought from home, he can always use the water filter at the center. So we should ensure that it contains clean water for children. And having clean toilets with tap water facility. So we should have toilets separately for girls and boys, and these toilets should have the tap water connection so that the children can clean themselves. And we have to have a washroom for cleaning purposes. Sometimes children will have to take a body wash, maybe a face wash as required, and especially after some messy activities. Sometimes they'll have to even body wash. So in that case, we need a washroom well maintained at the ECCD center. And we have to have a proper drainage system to drain dirty water and rainwater, because if we fail to have a proper drainage system, it can lead to so many health issues So we have to ensure that the drainage system is proper and is very clean. And we have to have a proper waste disposal system as well, because this also ensures the cleanliness at the ECCD center, and in return will stop spread of communicable diseases, especially from flies and other animals. So it is important to have a proper waste disposal system as well. The next one is sick room and first aid box. So preschoolers usually have plenty of experience with bumps and bruises. So because they explore, climb, and run around so often. So band-aids are common, elbow and knee additions. And having young children in a classroom makes first aid preparedness important as a teacher. So extending that preparedness to the students creates a safer environment. Not only should a classroom have a complete first aid kit, but the teacher also should have some knowledge, the basic knowledge on first aid for preschoolers. Sorry. So where preschoolers have a first aid room, it should be located so as to be accessible to injured students and staff, and it should be well lit, ventilated, and clearly identified with appropriate signage. And schools without a first aid room should provide a first aid area, probably a sick bay for say for ill or injured students and staff to rest in. And sick bays should meet as many as possible of the minimum requirements for first aid rooms. And if we talk about the first aid box, it should be located in a place that children cannot access, because this contains sometimes medicine. And so we should avoid keeping it in a place that children can access it. And medicine and materials should be periodically reviewed for expiration and replaced accordingly. And the basic content of a first aid box could be with band-aids, egg bandages, gauze pads, plasters, gloves, instant cold pack, maybe a pair of scissors, over-the-counter medicine like paracetamol, betadine solution, surgical spirit, gripe water, normal saline. So these general first aid materials can be included in a first aid box. So if we talk more about the sick room, the minimum sick room requirements are as follows. So it should have personal protective equipment, and then electrical power points, and sharps disposal system, and then biohazard waste container and sanitary waste bin, and then a workbench or a dressing trolley, and storage cupboards with required other materials. And also, a sick room should have a sink for hand wash facilities and first aid kits. Then, of course, blankets and pillows for children, and a list of emergency telephone numbers and summary sheet should be clearly displayed. So the first aid summary sheet or emergency management contact details sheet must be completed and should include the details of the current first aid officers, and should be displayed in the first aid room or sick bay on close proximity. And if possible, it is advisable to have a separate nurse to be in charge of this sick room. Otherwise, a teacher or another staff with some first aid knowledge. Now let's look at the communication channels to inform parents in emergency situations. So children are naturally vulnerable to accidents, become sick, and sometimes even become homesick at ECCD centers. So there can be natural disasters, political instabilities, or other critical issues in the country that also might lead to emergencies. So therefore, it is important for an ECCD center to have a predetermined way of communication with parents on how to contact them during an emergency. A separate list of emergency contact details of parents should be maintained. Instead of relying on one contact, additional number, maybe a landline or office line, should all be included in this contact registry. And parents should be advised to inform the school in case of changing their contact numbers. And the assembly point in a general emergency and evacuation procedures should be notified to parents at the beginning of the year. And the next area is about gardening. So where we'll be talking about the importance of having plots for gardening at an ECCD center. So gardening is a popular element of preschool education at present all over the world. To educate children on healthy eating, to make children understand on the process of growing, to make children responsible, not to waste food, to cultivate nature-loving attitudes among children. So countries like Japan, Australia have their own gardens in ECCD centers with vegetable plots. And also children are engaged in these gardens for cultivation as well as in harvesting. So now let's look at how to have a garden for children at an ECCD center. So provided the ECCD center has enough space, a separate garden can be maintained with separate plots allocated for vegetables, fruits, and maybe even for flowers. And if the land area is limited, pots can be used with a space utilization technique, maybe using racks, maybe a rooftop gardening or something like that. And child-friendly gardening tools have to be stored in a specific place for the children to use during gardening. And of course, there should be a watering facility to water the plants. And cleaning facilities also should be arranged for the children to clean themselves after gardening. And parents should be made aware, and the plots should be well maintained to ensure safety for children with the engagement of parents. So that's all I have with this assignment. My special thanks goes to Madam Jayasuriya, the subject teacher, and Mr. Janaka Kamalgoda, and all the others who helped me in numerous ways on this assignment. Thank you very much.